I got fresh Farhan. You want fresh Farhan?
I love some fresh Farhan.
Everybody wants some fresh hand? We got some Farhan, and it's fresh. There you go. Thank you, Susan Slusser of the San Francisco Chronicle. Let's give her some credit. She caught up with Farhan Zaidi, and she wrote about it. Want to hear it? Want to hear it? Here it go. Okay. Quote, the start overall has been hugely disappointing because we obviously invested a lot in the team. We've had a lot of changes that we expected to show up in our record, in on-field performance. Even in spring training, we saw a lot of positives that we expected to carry into the season, and it hasn't happened. We haven't hit our stride. Okay. That's fresh Farhan 1.
Hugely disappointing.
Disappointing, yes.
And I wonder if he's talking about more than just the standings, as you and I were discussing.
Of course he is. And fresh Farhan to address that very question in a moment. Because remember the phrase, we invested a lot in the team. Okay? Next. When you're the San Francisco Giants and you go on a road trip and you lose 6 out of 7, there's going to be frustration and disappointment, as there should be. It's fair to say we put a lot of chips in this year. We spent a lot of money, and we signed guys that led to forfeiting draft picks and international pool money, all with the expectations that we will be really good and competitive this year. So I do think there's more at stake, and the expectations are even higher for us than they have been in the last few years when they've been justifiably high as well. Fresh Farhan.
Fresh Farhan.
Number 2.
So the disappointment goes beyond the standings, as you and I were talking about, and it's, the chips being put in this year, forfeiting draft picks and international pool money, both of which will hurt your ability to continue to improve this roster and get better down the road.
Yep.
So you allocate a lot of resources for this year. You weren't quite all in on this year, but you went pretty deep on this year. You mentioned it, second most money spent in free agency in the offseason.
I bet they would challenge your statement that they weren't quite all in. Like, the only way they could have been more all in is if they had landed Shohei.
I guess, yeah. I mean, they did invest.
And they tried.
They invested a lot, money and years in Jung-Hoo Lee. They invested a lot of money in the short term in Snell and Chapman, but player options looks like they might be sticking around for another year.
Soler got 3 years.
Exactly. So they did absolutely make a pretty significant investment. And this road trip was disappointing, and it's not over, I know, but for more than just the one-loss record, you lost 2 catchers on this trip. Bailey and Murphy both, and Murphy for a longer time than Bailey, who hopefully will be back by the next homestand.
Fresh Farhan number 3.
More fresh Farhan?
All we can ask for is consistent effort and preparation, which I see on a day-to-day basis. I can't criticize the effort or preparation from our players. I think they really care, and it's why you're hearing a lot of frustration from them. I think we just have to grind out the stretch.
Okay. Consistent effort and preparation, it's important, but it's not as important. You and I have had this long debate about process versus results. If your process is good with consistent effort and preparation, and I do know that their hard hit rate from an offensive standpoint is really good, which if it continues, you would figure those balls are going to start to find the dirt instead of finding the leather.
I mean, if I asked you right now, do you think the Giants are this bad? What would be your answer?
No.
I agree with you.
I don't think that they are 21-15 good, but they're probably not 15-21 bad.
Interesting.
They're probably somewhere in between. And I look at the games that they've lost.
So you're saying they're a 500 team?
Basically.
You think they're an 81-win team?
Yeah. And if you look at their game log this year, and I don't have it all in front of me, but the really good teams are cuffing them around, and they're beating the bad teams. They're a little bit like the Golden State Warriors in that way.
Look at that. I mean, who are the really good teams?
Philly's a really good team.
There's the Phillies, sure.
The Dodgers are a really good team.
Whacked them around. That's a combined 0-7 right there.
Right. And, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily put Boston in that group. Boston's in the good, not great group.
Yeah.
But the Padres are in that same category. They're fine.
And the Giants are 4-3 against the Padres.
Right.
Yeah.
So against the really good, which would just be Philadelphia and the Dodgers, they are 0-7, right?
Yep.
So you're 15-14 against the rest of baseball. And I would bet over these next 6 against Colorado, they're going to win 4, if not 5 of these games. Because that's kind of what the Warriors did this year.
Did they only get 5 against them? I thought it was both 3-game series.
No, I said they're going to win 4, if not 5.
Oh, 4, if not 5. Got it.
Yeah,
Of the 6. Got it. Okay. Fresh Farhan 4.
We got more Farhan?
This is the one.
This guy's a chatterbox.
This is the one.
Okay. Because the one that you already read got starred by Lucas. So
Ooh.
You think this one's better?
Well,
he didn't star your copy?
I don't know if it's better.
Lucas got a highlighter today. This is cool.
I think this is the one that might get a reaction.
Okay.
Might upset you a little bit.
Jeez.
Yeah. Since you're a Giants fan.
Big time.
Quote, on the offensive side of things, we're pretty committed to this group. We have a lot of veteran players, and really, there are only a couple spots where we even have the roster flexibility to change the roster if we decided that made sense. But frankly, we have such a number of guys who just aren't producing the way they would expect that it's hard to pinpoint any one move as a panacea. I don't necessarily see any immediate moves on the horizon. But I think we're getting to the point of the year where the sample size starts being more meaningful, and you have to at least start thinking along those lines.
End of Farhan number 4.
Well, and therefore, I mean, that is speaking to, I know where everyone's head is. Number 1.
Right field.
Why not bring up Elliot Ramos and give Austin Slater a hangnail? And maybe that's what he's referring to toward the end.
Right.
We're starting to get to the point of the year where the sample sizes start being more meaningful. The problem is Austin Slater might not be one of those guys. He's only had 34 at-bats.
Right.
Doesn't get to hit a lot.
The thing that struck me is there are only a couple of spots where we even have the flexibility to change the roster if we decided that made sense. And one of those spots is right field, but your point is well taken. You face a lot more righties than you do lefties. So you want a lefty bat to put out there more often than not, and that is not Elliot Ramos. It's not Luis Matos. Who would that be in your farm? I don't know if you have a lefty stick who's ready to come up and take that spot. And the other part of it is, whoever you bring up, young guy, you want him to play every day.
Well, but you're talking about Yaz, who's been hot as of late. Like, Ramos could supplant Slater, to be the right-handed right fielder.
And play twice a week. Which is what you don't want to do.
Correct.
My thought would be...
That's what you signed up for. You have 2 platoons.
Right.
You have 2 platoons on this team. And so if you sign up for that, then you got to play him. Whoever that person is not going to get a lot of at-bats. Wilmer Flores doesn't get enough at-bats. Unfortunately for the Giants, he is, again, one of their best hitters. I know his numbers aren't great this year, but you can see it when he hits. Wilmer Flores is a professional hitter. He can hit the ball. They need him in there more. Then again, he platoons with Lamont Wade, who's also been good. Like, first base, while not sparkly, has not been a problem. And he's right. What other position would you even consider making a change? You got, like, shortstop, maybe?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's
Ahmed's got a 569 OPS.
Yeah, Ahmed, he's not a very good hitter. He never has been. He's a good glove. He's good enough over there. Sometimes he trips on the dirt, but other than that, he's a very good and capable shortstop. But if you do decide that Luciano is ready to rock, that's a spot. He's not making a lot of money. You could make that move.
Right.
You could put Ramos out there for Slater. Conforto's the left fielder. Jung Hoo Lee's the center fielder. Chapman, Estrada, Bailey. Those are your everyday players, and that's done. You're not moving those guys.
Right, and Estrada's been hitting better of late. Chapman's sitting at 209 with 4 home runs. It hasn't felt like he's homered in a long time.
But he's your $18 million third baseman.
Exactly.
And he's Matt Chapman.
And that's the way that's going to go. So Casey Schmidt is blocked. Luciano's blocked unless he can go out and play a different position. And the big question is right field. Would you want to have Yaz be a guy who's just a pinch hitter and you give, Elliot Ramos or whoever every day at bats out there? Does that make you better? I don't think it necessarily does in the short term because defensively, those guys can play good right field. And you don't know about putting a rook out there, especially at 3rd and King, which is a little bit of a tricky spot.
They did not like Matos' defense.
Right.
They did not. Ramos has not really gotten any sort of an everyday chance whatsoever. But I can tell you that about a year and a half ago, it at minimum felt like the organization was just kind of out on Ramos. So he's going to have to sort of play his way up here double time. And his OPS is bouncing around 1,000 right now at AAA, but that's a different hitting environment than Major League Baseball. So I don't know. It does not sound like they're close to many changes. The changes they'd like to see are simply the at-bats that the current guys are giving them have got to be better. Bomel said it.
Yeah.
Right? Clean it up. There's your new Giants marketing phrase.
That's right. Giants baseball, clean it up.
It's not nothing like it. Giants baseball. Clean it up. Right? There you go. Clean it up.
And Farhan does go on in this piece to defend Austin Slater, talking about his inconsistent playing time, and he didn't really get much time in camp, and he's in this platoon role where he's been really successful the last couple of years. So for everyone, including myself, who wants to pull the plug on the Austin Slater experiment, it sounds like Farhan Zaidi he's wanting to see more in terms of at-bats from Slates before he makes any move.
This quote is funny. He's taking some swings where I've just been genuinely surprised that he's swung and missed because he looks really on time. And those are pitches he usually hits.